Hello and welcome to H1-2006, HackerOne's second ever virtual live hacking event in association with PayPal. My name is Prash Samaya and I manage bug bounty programs and run live hacking events at HackerOne. Today I'm joined by some wonderful guests who need much less of an introduction than I, but I'll give them the opportunity. Hello and welcome to anyway. H1-2006, starting with our resident bash guru, Mr. Tom Nom Nom.
Hey, how you doing?
Next up, joining us from Belgium, in TDC.
Hey, what is up?
And last but not least, HackerOne's very own head of community, Luke Tucker.
Yo, yo.
So we've all come together over the last couple of weeks to hack on PayPal. Usually a HackerOne event like this takes place in a physical location. A group of dozens of selected hackers get together in the same city to collaborate, compete, and focus all of their attention on a single target. Now, we run these events all around the world, and they've taken us to some incredible places, from Buenos Aires to New York to Singapore and beyond. But now, without the ability to travel, we've taken to virtual events. H1-2006 is our second virtual live hacking event of the year, and actually PayPal's first ever live hacking event. Over 60 hackers have been hunting for bugs over the last couple of weeks, and today we launched the leaderboard and start paying out bounties. So I'll start with a question for Tom and Inti. Tell us about your experience so far with the event. Had either of you hacked on PayPal before? Why don't we start with you, Tom?
Okay, sure. So this is actually my first time hacking on PayPal, and I really quite enjoyed it. I think some companies have run several live hacking events before, and that's always really appreciated. But it's really nice to get something new to sink your teeth into. We haven't already been looking at the same pages and seeing the same error pages over and over and over again. You get to see new error pages now instead. Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. Working with my team, Disturbance, we're finding a fair amount of things, I think, is probably the best way to put it.
And what about Inti? Have you kind of had a similar experience?
Well, I thought I didn't hack on PayPal before, but then I logged into my account and I saw XSS payloads in my old address. My old PayPal account that was been sitting there for a couple of years was just a graveyard of payloads. So I must, at some point in time, I must have tried out their bug bounty program, but I'm glad I'm back because I really enjoy the target. Like Tom says, I really enjoy having new blood. And also what I really appreciate about this target is that it's just so big. You would think that just, a website with people being able to send money to each other, that's kind of a simple setup, but it's not that. There's lots of different forms, lots of different ways to send people money or receive money, so that's always very interesting, and it's a totally new. I don't think I've ever hacked on a financial institution before, so I like the business logic behind it and learning about that.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, it can be always complicated and difficult with a target like PayPal, especially since they've had a bug bounty program open to the world for a good number of years. Tom, you mentioned that you've been hacking with your team Disturbance. Now, how do you kind of approach your methodology when you're working on a target, one, so big like PayPal, and two, when you guys don't have the chance to meet up in person and you're all spread across different time zones? How have you kind of worked together to find bugs?
Yeah, so one of the things to mention, I guess, is we're constantly changing up how we work together to try and find the best way to do it. I think we've always worked well together when we've done it. But we've had sort of a mixture in the past of, we all go off and hack and then share the interesting things that we find and all that sort of thing. But this is kind of the first time we've been a bit more organized, and we've sort of split into two sub-teams. We've got an intelligence team and a team Cosmic to find the real cosmic bugs. And boy, do they. But I think that kind of thing has worked really well this time, especially having Fisher keep us all organized. So we've got a Trello board where we organize all the things that we've got to look at and that sort of thing. We've got our own Slack instance, so we're in constant touch. And we've had like a long running Zoom call running that we can all join each time as well. So it's been pretty good. Nothing can ever replace the in-person side of things, for sure. Like, we can't all get together and have ramen this time, unfortunately. But we're doing okay with it, I think.
Very cool. Inti, you're taking a more of a lone wolf kind of approach to this event, but I've seen that you've been collaborating with a few different people. How's that been working for you?
Yeah, I have. So my approach is more like I look at the bug that I'm working on, and then I try to figure out who would be the best person to work on that. And that's very interesting always, because at the same event I can probably collaborate with more than 10 people just for different bugs. So that's always nice, and it kind of takes the feeling away that I'm sitting here alone in my apartment. So that I have that going for me. But I've collaborated with Alex Bursan, because obviously he's the king of PayPal, if you look at the leaderboard. So I was there to ask him some questions, or just to get me started, or give me some ideas in what kind of stuff they might be looking for. And then I also collaborated with CDL, Corbin Leo.
Very cool. Have you found that now we're all kind of on a level playing field? Everyone is remote and kind of working from their own homes, working in their own kind of way. Some people don't have that disadvantage of not being in person. Everyone's not in person this time around. Do you think that's helped? Do you think the fact that everyone's remote and kind of has that same almost disability, you have to use cloud services, make sure everyone's in sync? Do you think it's helped kind of sharing and collaborating with that being the case?
Yeah, I think I've definitely been aware of more collaboration, if nothing else, because it's kind of happening in the open a little bit more, rather than like in hotel rooms the day before the event, or in the small closed off rooms that we sometimes get at the live event venues. It's all happening on Slack. People shouting out because they need help, or because they've got half a bug that they want help escalating, or maybe they've got something interesting, or they're just looking to help someone else as well. So I think the fact that it's more visible kind of makes more people want to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you can't see it happening, then you're less inclined to do it yourself.
And I think people are a bit less shy behind a keyboard, right? Sometimes you see these like rock star hackers turn up at an event and you might not want to approach them and talk to them. But when you've got that kind of screen in front of you, it's much easier to reach out and be like, hey, could you help me with this? And on the topic of virtual events, it seems that we're going to be virtual for a bit more time to come. What do you guys think about how we've taken these events virtual? What are some of the pros and cons you've seen so far?
Well, a pro for me, for example, is the lack of a jet lag, especially like the Singapore event. I remember just being awake the whole night before the event. And that's not really an advantage when it comes to hacking, just being so tired that you can't really think clearly. So that's something I don't miss. What I also like is, the Slack setup, and we have this channel in the Slack workspace that is called Be Yourself, where everybody gets to post, just things from their personal life, their pets, their setup, or whatever they're working on. And I think that's kind of nice to get to know each other. Naturally, you have other conversations than you would have in person, but that's nice because we've had a lot of the same conversation in person, and now we get to the more personal stuff because we're just all in our own comfort zone. We're all at home.
Yeah, I definitely agree about the jet lag for sure. It can be pretty brutal. I think being one of the sort of a bunch of European hackers, I think there's a few, not quite as many of us as there are in the US. So when we've done events over this side of the ocean, it's been quite funny to see all the Americans, knowing how we usually feel with the jet lag side of things. But yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think really a bit of a silly pro for me, but something that actually makes a dramatic amount of difference is using my desktop PC instead of a laptop. I think I've mentioned to a few people and almost been made fun of for my ridiculously large monitor. I run a 43-inch monitor, and I sit like only a couple of feet away from it. So going from that to like a 15-inch laptop is
in a dark cave. So
in a dark cave. Yeah, I do turn the light on sometimes, but it's a garage. There's no windows, and also someone's got to keep up the stereotype. Although sadly it's a bit warm for the hoodie today, unfortunately. But yeah,
I thought you were going to do your best Stoke impression already.
Oh yeah, I need to get the glasses out. My glasses aren't as cool as his, unfortunately, but yeah, I can do my best. although they are prescriptions, so I can see a little better, which helps. Yeah, going down to the laptop with no sort of keyboard and mouse, although I have brought a mechanical keyboard to live events before, that actually makes a genuine difference to workflow and how easy it is to do things, because it doesn't get in your way so much. And on the con side of things, no hugs. There's not as much hugs. I think there's several of us who are very big on the hugs at live events, and I really do miss that for sure.
Oh yeah, I miss the connections that we make, and I miss the karaoke. And I am awful at karaoke, but hey, it's a ton of fun once an event is over, just kind of winding down with all the hackers. And this feels like, well, the event doesn't end till next Tuesday, but it'll almost feel like there's some unfinished business without getting together with you all and making a fool of ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. We almost need to do just an in-person karaoke get together.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. There's going to be some significant pent-up demand for just not having the overhang of 2 weeks of busting your butt to hack, and just get together to be together with anybody in a certain place. Yeah, I was thinking about that actually. I was chatting with Stoke earlier today, just of you can never replace the in-person component of a physical live event. The richness of being able to break bread, have drinks, experience a new place, new culture. For many individuals, it might be their first time or the only time they're ever going to get to go to. For me, from the West at least, Singapore is probably the most exotic location that we've ever had a live hacking event at, and definitely change it. We'll never replace it. So live events are a new experience. How can we raise the bar in other ways that you guys have already touched on a couple key ones? So yeah, we're excited to see how they'll evolve. And it's been awesome to be able to have partners like Verizon Media and PayPal to kind of innovate with us in this new experience. And the event does live primarily in Slack, right? That Slack communication, that culture, that interaction with each other becomes much more rich, more purposeful. And we're all in a space where varied levels of quarantine equal. We're all at different mental health states, even of I haven't had this social connection, or I haven't this affinity group or my tribe, so to speak. So we're happy to provide that, and even do these streams, which we wanted to do to be able to provide more access to hundreds, thousands of hackers, to be able to kind of just get an insight. We are always going to have a limitation in terms of the number of hackers are invited to these events. 60 is a lot for a single target. I mean, you can, you all know it. You see the collaboration, you see the incredible talent that comes to the table, and everyone's bringing their A game. So I know the customers appreciate that. We all, as consumers of the products that these customers produce, are very appreciative of all of your incredible work. So you'll never look at a CAPTCHA again, though. That's probably a little bit of an inside joke, but I'm sure we could share just why that might be the case. Because you made that joke about the same error screens you keep seeing in the target, or this one spot where you keep getting hit, and the CAPTCHAs are a defining element of this event, from what I can see, at least.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've taken so many organizations through this live hacking process, and each and every time, one of the favorite things I love seeing is the look on their faces after someone drops that crit, someone drops that really awesome creative bug, and their jaw is dropping wow, this is awesome. And I really miss that. I don't get to see the look on PayPal's faces when Tom or NT drops a great bug in person.
Look at NT's smirk right now. He literally shared a screenshot of interaction with the triage of who does this? Who even thinks of this? I know you can't share the specifics, but that's a great example of in a virtual space, you react in an emoji and you're not going to get to see. You wish you could turn on the camera, right, Prash, and get that, oh man, or yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, and the problem is that I go look for these kind of reactions with other people in here in my house. So I have to apologize to my girlfriend, for example, because, usually at a live hacking event, whenever you're working on something or found something exciting, you want to, stress out and ventilate and just talk to somebody about it that can be as excited as you are. So whenever I find something, I go downstairs and talk for 30 minutes straight without her even being able to get a word through it. 30 minutes straight. Oh, this is my bug, and I think this would be the CVSS score, and maybe I can try that to try to raise the impact, and I can't wait for the show and tell. And she's like sitting there, yeah, that's great. Try cross-site scripting, because that's the one class that she knows. But it's great to see how supportive she is in trying to replace that, kind of interaction with other hackers. She listens and she tries to, make it, oh yeah, honey, that's great. I hope you find the crit. I hope you find the crit. So, I mean, big shout out to her.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Man, I can't help but think back to some of the awesome memories that we've had at these live hacking events. I remember, Tom, at one of the more recent ones where you actually won the MVH and you found a couple of awesome bugs. I think we even have a couple of pictures we can show on screen of you finding an incredible bug, the reaction and the fallout, as well as you winning MVH and picking up Luke. Can you tell us a little bit, what's that like? What was that feeling like of winning most valuable hacker?
I think kind of unbelievable, really. Before that event, it wasn't my first event by any means. I've been to a few before, and my goal for a HackerOne event was to get a show and tell. All right, I was like, if I get a show and tell, that means I'm finding some really cool stuff, and maybe provide a bit of notoriety. Maybe people know who I am after that. But that event, I got 2 show and tells, and then got the MVH as well. So as well as the biggest bounty I've ever had, it was a 40K bounty, which was just and that's how the day started. So to have it end with getting the belt was just absolutely phenomenal. I think there's this picture of me sort of sat back in my chair like this, and it's absolutely the most smug I have ever looked in my entire life, but with good reason, for sure. And also people were so happy for me as well, which was just I felt loved. I think is probably the best way to put it. Indescribable.
Very cool. I think you really showed off the home field advantage without having to travel and no jet lag. I'm sure that contributed as well.
Yeah, it definitely helped for sure.
Outside of that event, though, do you have a memory or a favorite moment or even a favorite city that we've done a live hacking event in? I know you've been a part of a number of ours.
Oh, many. I think I'll let you go first while I try and figure out which one.
My favorite city, that's a tough one. For me as well, and Luke already mentioned it, Singapore was quite exotic, and I was really excited to go there because I haven't been in Asia before. So that was, except for the jet lag, I think that was a great event. But what also makes this event great is the community there and the activities we did. And back in Singapore, we had like a dinner within a bus that would take us to various places, and meanwhile we could eat and drink a beer. I mean, that was an amazing experience. So I'll go for Singapore, because Vegas is nice and all, but they don't have a bus that drives you. Yeah, they probably have, it's Vegas, but not
it's Vegas too. I'm sure they got half a dozen of those damn things, but you're not driving through Singapore seeing all that you get to see.
Yeah, they didn't rebuild like the lion. They don't have it in Vegas, like the lion spitting water from Singapore. So that's something that Vegas doesn't have yet.
That's true.
I'm sure they will do as soon as they see this video.
Yeah.
I wasn't in Singapore, so I can't pick that one. And Vegas is a one-of-a-kind place for sure. I've certainly never been somewhere that hot. And it was my first live event, so it'll always hold a special place in my heart. But I think the place I enjoyed the most was actually probably LA, for a bunch of reasons. But 2 of them involve food, which is, I guess, kind of predictable for me. So, with sat outside the hotel with Team Disturbance the day after the event with some amazing ramen, and just all laughing and joking in the nice weather was just maybe the I'm not a religious person, but relatively close to a spiritual experience almost. And the other one was just waking up early because I was jet lagged. So and that's a rare thing for me to be able to get up in the morning. So it felt good. Hopping on an electric scooter in glorious weather and going to I can't remember the name of the burger place. I think it was a Smash Burger or something like that. And having this fantastic burger in the sunshine, just really struck a chord with me, I think. So yeah, I think I'm going to say LA.
Very cool. I remember that event was with Verizon Media. Is that right? Yeah, I mean, we hack a ton of different organizations from companies like Verizon Media to even government organizations. And you reminded me of a story with the Air Force. We've done a couple of programs like Hack the Air Force and
Los Angeles
such.
was Air Force too.
It was
that's right. It was a multi-day event.
It was
That's
interesting
right.
because it was the first time we've had some partners in the UK that we were able to have some targets in scope. So there was some British Royal Air Force assets in scope for that event as well.
It's pretty cool. Inti, I recall a story about some army folks and some nuclear codes.
Yeah, man, that's so embarrassing. So I was in Vegas. That was the year that I won the belt. So I still did great and they didn't hate me for it. I found some great bugs and I was, feeling a little bit funny. I also had, a few beers. So I was already celebrating my victory. Then I went to some of the, the guys in uniform and women in uniform. And I just asked, hey, what happens if I have found the nuclear code? I mean, what kind of CVSS v3 is that? Like, is it a crit or not? And I was saying it like jokingly, just for kicks and giggles. But then they walked up to me with like 4 or 5 people I don't remember. But immediately I was like surrounded, and they were like, what did you just find? Did you find anything? And I had to like confirm at least 2 times that I didn't actually find the nuclear codes. So I kind of regret making that joke, but they didn't hate me for it because I still got to win the belt, and I got some nice presents from them to take home. Actually, I went home afterwards, so on the airplane, I got like this big bullet and like a compass from them. And then here, like my belt, just a boxing belt. And the lady from TSA, she was going through my bags because I'm always the lucky one that gets picked out for personal inspection. And she looked at like the bullet, not an issue. She looked at like the compass from their, from their army, not an issue. And then she saw my belt and she thought that was suspicious. And she looked at me. She was like, wait, did you win that boxing belt? Like implied, because my muscle game isn't as strong as Luke's muscle games, for example. And she was like, yeah, that's suspicious. And then she ripped like the bomb finding thing on my belt just to make sure I was not smuggling anything. So yeah, I mean, you gotta take care if you walk through TSA with the HackerOne belt and bullets.
Yeah, I
you
imagine
mentioned my strength, dude. Tom Nom Nom's the one that literally picked me up with his pinky on stage. The picture that we showed. So that guy's got the true like Hulk dad strength. Like all the dad strengths, he's got kids. He can just pick them up with his arm because that's what he does like 90% of the time. I'm sure.
Yeah, still 2 of them. I figure if I keep picking them up all the time, by the time they're grown-ups, I will be amazingly strong.
Well, you're on a good track, man.
So you showed us as your belt. I imagine that's your absolute most prized possession in the world, maybe next to your own poster, which I love your display behind you there, Inti. But what is your favorite piece of swag related to Bug Bounty or a live hacking event that you've ever received?
I was just going to say it's my second most precious item in the world, because I also have this keyboard, and it looks like a normal, Windows 4, Windows 3, whatever it was, like back in the old days, keyboard, like stuff like that. I still love typing on these keyboards, but it's signed by Metallica, like the metal band, the heavy metal band. Because, and this was back in, I think, 2012, when responsible disclosure and even bug bounties weren't really a thing yet. I was just a fan of Metallica, and I found this issue on their website. I cannot disclose it, of course, but it was pretty bad. So I figured I would just, go to the contact section, and I looked at the name of I think it was their tour manager, and I was like 15 years old back in the day, and I just sent them an email like, oh, you have the security issue. I don't want to harm you because, those are metal guys. They may just beat me up. But they were so nice about it, and then they invited me to Belgium, like backstage at Belgium where they were going to play. And I walked up through the backstage entrance, and there was this like very big bald dude, like the kind of dude that you see in a backstage entrance, like protecting everything. And he was like, "Who's Inti?" I was like, me. And at that moment I was convinced they were going to beat me up for hacking them. But then he took me apart with the band. It was like, dude, this is the most crazy story ever. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, other than having the meet and greet and signing my keyboard, which they gladly did after hearing my story, me and my girlfriend were invited on stage with them. So during the whole set, like with, what's it, like 100,000 people in front of us, we were on stage with Metallica, on the side, of course. But during one number, along with some other people, they allowed us to do like the backing vocals of this metal song called Creeping Dead. And the backing vocals are super easy, just like dead, dead, dead. And at that moment, I realized, okay, hacking got me onto a Metallica concert doing the backing vocals during Creeping Dead. And I think they must have turned the volume all down, because I'm a terrible singer. You've seen that in karaoke events before. But I mean, that was the coolest moment in the world. And the moment that I decided, okay, I should probably continue doing this. And that's my story.
It's really awesome, man. And this was before, like, platforms like HackerOne had really gotten a foothold, and most organizations didn't have a bug bounty or even a vulnerability disclosure program. So how did you get started in hacking when, when things weren't so mainstream, when there weren't so many resources available, when, you couldn't just go and hack a bunch of programs for money?
I can start, I guess. So, I think when I got into actually doing bug bounty stuff, bug bounty was, getting fairly mainstream. It was only, 2016, 2017, something like that. Things were getting started. But, I had always been, getting myself into trouble at school for messing with computers and that sort of thing, which I think is a pretty common story in our industry. I actually got myself into rather a lot of trouble at one point, because they thought I changed the register. But actually I changed the registry, and they just, misheard the IT people. So yeah, I think for a brief moment there, I was about to get kicked out of school until someone in IT kind of corrected them. But, there used to be a sort of websites with like CTF style hacking challenges and things. Trytohack.nl, I think, was the one that I kind of first came across, where you had to view the source to find the password for the first level, and then you had to like decompile like a Flash application to try and reverse engineer the action script to figure out what the password was and that sort of thing. So I think that's where I got my start originally.
So for me, it was actually, and this is quite relevant as well. I started off, of course, by accident. My mom got me a PlayStation Portable for my birthday or stuff like that, and I wanted to play Mario, so she bought me a PlayStation Portable. But in order to play Mario, you had to buy a Nintendo. But we ran out of money, and I couldn't buy a Nintendo. So I went on YouTube and saw these people running, just old SNES Mario games on their PSP, and that was okay for me. So I wanted to try that. Unfortunately, I had the updated version of the PSP, and mine was not cracked yet. And I was like, okay, somebody else will crack it. But I waited for months, and nobody cracked my version. It was version 6.3.6 or something like that. And nobody did it. So I looked up a tutorial online on how to find buffer overflows, but little did I know that it was a buffer overflow. I just had to look for crashes by doing random stuff, which is something I'm good at, doing random stuff. So I posted I found this bug where you would visit a web page and then you would bookmark it, but the web page had like 100 million characters in the title, and then your whole PSP would crash. And then I posted my crash log online, and people were freaking out, and they were like saying, "Oh, Inti, you find remote code execution on PlayStation Portable by accident," because I didn't know it was played. It was just luck. I admit that, but that kind of allowed me to get into the space and trying to understand what I just found. And it's actually kind of relevant because yesterday Sony started a bug bounty program with you guys, and the minimum payout or something like that, or the payout is like 50 grand. So I've been looking for that PSP since that announcement was made, but I think I just like threw it away. But there's a valid, probably it's not in scope, but there's like a valid remote code execution bug on there. I never released it because I was scared of Sony. Valid one on there, and I need to find it just to submit an old PSP bug on the program. I don't care if it's out of scope. I want to get, I want to make it up for not reporting it ages ago.
That's because that was a while ago. Wow, what a bug to find. Do you remember the first ever bug you submitted to a program, to its organization for either bug bounty or just as responsible disclosure?
For me, first it was Google. I think just cross-site scripting because that's the easy stuff, and I got $100, and I was like so glad that I got $100 because I was a student, I didn't have any money, and then I went to a pub with all my friends, and in Belgium we say to buy a barrel, which is basically like buying a whole barrel of beer and inviting as many people to drink it on one night. But then I forgot I had to pay taxes on it, but the money was already gone. So it was a costly affair. But yeah, then I just kept looking for
money well spent. I want to know, Inti, what's the Belgian term for buy a barrel? What is do you have a phrase?
We say, wat.
Yeah.
Which is, if you have something to celebrate and people start singing that, what's up, and you have to buy a barrel of beer.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
It's basically like an American version of a keg, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But I love it.
That's it.
Yeah, I think back to one of the first ever bugs that I found, and it's so dumb. It was on a website that would collect payments. And one of the ways you could pay was through your bank account. So you'd give them your bank details and they take money every month. So I tried putting that, and actually another way you could pay was they gave you their bank details and you could just send money to them directly with a reference and email them, hey, I sent you money. So in the first form, asking for your bank details, I put in their bank details, and then every month they take money from their own bank account and attribute it to my account. That was it's just like the most simple bug. Like there's no kind of technical knowledge involved in that at all. And I didn't get a bounty for that either. I just emailed the company and let them know. What about you, Tom? Do you remember your first ever bug?
Yeah, I do. So I think mine is a little bit different in a lot of ways because my employer launched a bug bounty program and let employees hack on it as well, which I think is pretty unusual.
Cool.
Most if you're an employee, you can't hack on the program. Well, why? You want to find all the bugs, so your employees will be really good at that. So maybe you should consider letting them. Yeah, so they launched this program, let employees hack on it, and I was like, oh, I have a wedding booked, which is not yet paid for. So this sounds like a good idea. I'll give it a try. And I think it was like not very long at all because I was looking at systems I already knew pretty well, so I had a big advantage with that regard. And I think no one had ever really done like a white box analysis of it. We had like a yearly pen test, but with access to source code and things, it's just so much easier. And I found like a combined SSRF LFI thing within about like 5 minutes or so, and was kind of bouncing up and down with excitement. And then I got like $1,000 for it as well, which I mean, I wasn't a poor student at the time, but still, to have suddenly have an extra $1,000, I was instantly hooked. No turning back from that. I think that was the point of no return for me.
Damn, starting off with a crit, what an entrance.
Yeah. All downhill from there.
Bro. Yeah, NT rolling up with the XSS, although it was on Google. You can at least take that with you.
No, it was like a terrible marketing website for an ebook that they had.
All right, now the truth comes out.
It was not google.com, that's for sure.
No drag drop RCE, that's for sure.
And then here's NT as a teenager going to the bar. Hey, I'm about to buy a barrel. And Tom's like, I got to pay for my wedding.
Yeah.
Different stages in life, I guess.
Yeah, both very, very worthy causes.
I think it's probably for the best that I wasn't a teenager when I got into bug bounty. I think the money would have been spent very differently.
I can't even imagine spending $1,000 on beer. I mean, I didn't think I would have survived, so I'm kind of glad it was only $100.
Those are some pretty cool first bugs to find. I mean, I was expecting some things that are much lamer, like an open redirect or a content injection or something, but it's pretty impressive.
I think, for the record, my second and third and fourth and fifth bug were all shit. But just that one that got me going.
Yeah. Do you ever think back to that one bug, like that really creative bug, or one of the most interesting bugs that you ever found that of course you can talk about?
Oh, that I can talk about. Yeah, I have one that I was kind of I was pleased to find, I think. So I found a bug on Keybase a number of years back where I was trying to re-break a fix for someone else's XSS report that had been submitted already. And I've been looking at the previous reports and looking at the fix and thinking, is there a way that I can break this filter that they've implemented in response to the original report? And then I realized there was a parameter pollution issue in the original report, but no one noticed. It'd been disclosed for like 6 months or something like that, and the reporter hadn't noticed, and the Keybase hadn't noticed either. So, and I hadn't, even though I'd been kind of looking at the report for the last few hours, trying to find a bypass to it. And I was like, oh, there's a really clear parameter pollution issue here. I'll just submit that instead, and got a decent bounty out of it. And I think the Keybase team were a little bit like, damn it. Like this exact same parameter, we'd been told about this issue already, but no one noticed it. And I think about that one a lot because it's so easy to fall into this trap of thinking everything's already been found and there's nothing left to find. And actually sometimes even things that are in plain sight are not found. So there's definitely stuff hiding for sure.
Very true. Very true. What about UNT? Do you have a favorite bug?
Yeah, I have two actually, and the first one I can't really comment about it, but the impact was kind of funny. And you won't believe it, but you can always confirm with Cash Money, Andre Baptista or Matthias Carlsson from Team Sweden. But I mean, it's safe to say that we kind of met Paris Hilton due to one bug. So in person. That was literally like the impact of the bug. I cannot reveal it. I know, I created more questions, but I really can't comment on it. But yeah, I mean,
did you exploit the bug, Inti?
I can't. It was not really during a bug bounty. Like it was more like a red team assessment, but I can't really comment on it. But yeah, that was a great. But we didn't bother Paris or anything. We just took a picture, and then. The bug I can talk about is and probably my favorite on HackerOne is an email bug, because I just love email bugs, and I found a way to request somebody's password and have it bounce back to me, so make sure that they couldn't receive the email. And instead of just bouncing back, to a no reply email address, it would bounce back to me. So basically account takeover. But I won't go too much into details about that, because I tried that last week on Naham's stream. And I tried to do an explanation from 50 minutes in 20 minutes, and nobody could understand the thing. So I won't bother you with that.
We'll make an announcement. Maybe you'll get a second chance. We'll here live. Come to HacktivityCon, and we'll give you 45, 50 minutes. And you can give a, not like when I listen to podcasts, I'll listen to like 2 times speed. I imagine that's exactly what the audience was experiencing with your.
Yeah, if you look at the YouTube,
and I talk fast too. So you and I together, man, we can just like these wonderful companions we have on our stream, very sing-song, just for me as an American, beautiful British accents. And then I feel like I speak like English like a native, and I'm just like a machine gun. So we could go at it, man.
In all seriousness, now, if you haven't watched it already, Inti's talk from the HamCom is fantastic, and you absolutely must watch it.
I heard lots of great things.
Absolutely.
I learned so much about emails from watching that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, emails are the best. I hope to find an email bug at this live hacking event. I'm trying really hard, and maybe I already have one, but I cannot comment on that, of course.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'd like to open up to the chat a bit more. I know we've seen some questions dropping in and out of there throughout the stream. But guys at home, if you do have any questions, please drop them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. One thing that I've seen that's been coming up a couple of times, and I know a question that we've answered over and over again, is how do I get into hacking? Like I'm hesitant. I don't know how to get started. What can I do? And this question specifically comes from someone with a bit of programming experience prior. So I'd like to give my answer maybe a bit less technical and more kind of philosophical. Personally, I don't think one needs any kind of programming experience or history as a programmer to be able to be a good, reliable bug bounty hunter. In fact, the majority of the incredible bug hunters that I speak to every single day don't have any formal programming experience. Sure, they can write a couple of scripts here and there, but it's nothing too crazy. That being said, if you are coming from a background where you kind of have a fundamental understanding of how a computer works, how the internet works, how the web works, you're going to have a pretty big advantage just kind of having that technical understanding. So I honestly, if you do have that experience, dive right in. It's going to be super valuable. But the most important thing is to stay humble and to keep learning, right? Like this is a brand new skill, a whole new industry. This is an entire new career path for a lot of people. And the amount of information that's available and out there today is just insane. Keep your eyes open, keep reading, keep watching videos. I mean, now we have some incredible creators, even on YouTube, like with the likes of Ben, Stoke, even you, Tom, and Inti. So there's so there are so many resources out there right now. There couldn't be a better time to learn. But as far as more specific guidance, I'll put that in the reins of Inti and Tom.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. If you have some programming experience, it's going to be incredibly useful, I think. And again, like Prash said, not necessary, but incredibly useful. The one pitfall I would say to try and avoid that I fall into a lot of the time is spending all of your time writing tools instead of hacking. That's easy to fall into if that's your skill set and what you're good at. It's always really tempting to spend time on what you're good at rather than what it is you're actually trying to learn. But also admit to yourself, this is a hard thing to do for sure. You're going to spend a lot of time failing, much as that can be hard to admit to yourself, that you might spend a month or 2 or 3 months failing and not finding anything. Try and focus on the bits that you're learning, and focus on trying to understand how things work. I'm a firm believer that you need to understand how things work before you can efficiently break them.
I think choosing the right target can also be very important, because I've been doing this for 10 years almost, and I'm struggling to find valid bugs on PayPal. And I think as a newcomer, naturally you're attracted to all the high bug bounty amounts, but these companies have high amounts for a reason, and that's that they're insanely hard to hack. You may get 10 grand or something if you find a critical bug over there, but the chances of you actually finding a critical bug, which is not a dupe or is actually really low. So I would definitely start with just responsible disclosure programs. You don't really get paid, but chances of finding a bug are there, and it gives you an opportunity to learn. And I see it more as an investment than immediately hitting the big guys and companies.
Yeah. I mean, you see these hackers, they'll pop shells and find bugs like it's nothing, but that comes with years and years of experience of kind of developing their craft and their methodology to be able to get to that point. You can't expect to rock up on your first day and find a 30K bug in PayPal, of course. But another thing is like Tom mentioned on this, like, and it kind of alluded to it when he was talking about kind of building tools instead of actually getting into hacking. And I suffer from this as well. And I think it's a kind of a way of procrastinating as well. And you just got to get your hands dirty and do it. You've got to kind of get in there, stop playing around with things, and just hack, right? You might not find a bug for hours, for days, for weeks, for months even. But if you just kind of take a backseat approach and don't actually get your hands dirty, then you're never going to find that bug.
And I'll make a quick plug for Capture the Flag challenges, and HackerOne exists for the very reason you can even get access to these private programs. Inti mentioned there's nothing like hacking in the wild with responsible disclosure programs, VDPs on HackerOne. Go to the directory and you can find those programs. Lots of opportunity for you to learn and try your skill. Join a community of other learners that are going through a similar process to you, and that's why the HackerOne Discord exists for anybody that's trying to do these CTFs, these labs, to be able to kind of work out that muscle. Try your skill and do it socially. Accountability is super important. And investing in yourself. I think everybody on this stream, and I've seen a lot of comments from Stoke and the Hamsec and those that are on the live stream chatting with a lot of the hackers and viewers. Every single one of them, I will speak for them and say, like, when you actually come with, hey, I've tried this and it didn't work, what do I do next? Versus teach me how to hack, do this. We all have YouTube and Google right at our fingertips. I always joke around that I'm not a hacker, I just play one on TV. So I can kind of pretend most of the time, and they'll probably see me nod. I'm like, I kind of know more or less what's going on because I've been in the industry for about 3.5 years and got to just be via osmosis. I actually don't know the number. I bet I've listened to probably 100 show and tells, and 25 to 30 of them are inties. So, I hear his voice in my dreams probably, for better or for worse. But that's one of the best ways to do it as well. And we want to provide these kind of opportunities to live ask a question in chat. So seeing a lot of the questions about where do you get started, how do you go, where do you learn? Stoke, Nahamsec, Donut, Cyber Mentor, Heath and his stuff. And there's many more that I can't even think of off the top of my head, but the resources are out there for you. And the community's here.
I want to shout out to Insider PhD too.
Yes, Katie.
Thank you. The video she's been making are fantastic. Also pleased to hear I'm not the only one having the Inti dreams.
I don't know what to think about that. Okay, thanks for the info, Tom. Don't share anything else with me on that.
Well, speaking of collaboration, I know that's been a big part of live hacking events for some time, and to see the evolution, especially Tom with Disturbance being kind of a structured unit, and you mentioned that earlier in the stream of how you guys are even getting more honed in your process and approach. Inti, you've collaborated, you've had a long-standing, I'd say, competitive spirit with maybe another nation in the European Union. Team Sweden.
Yes, but
tell us about how, like, some of the early live hack events, how did it come about? How, I'd love to kind of tack into that. And I think, Prash, if I remember right, we have maybe you tell a little bit of a story and then we can have our producer. Our producer, by the way, is Nahamsec. He's in our ear. He's talking to us, making jokes for all of us. And so just know he's always present. But Inti, tell us about Team Sweden. And Prash, I didn't mean to steal the thunder there, but I was just like, I got to talk to him. I wanted to talk about collab.
I don't know how it started. I think it was one of the first live hacking events, and I felt kind of like a newbie. But here in my city in Belgium, which is called Aalst, we always have kind of a friendly fight with people that are being looked at as gods. And to me, that was Frans Rosen. And everybody's like, oh yeah, Franz Rosen is going to come to the event. Oh, I have a picture with Franz Rosen. And, I just enjoyed being, just pretending that I was I was going to beat Franz Rosen anyways. And then I started to make like posters of me beating like Franz Rosen. And, then it kind of started. And then I moved on from being a skid to finding more valuable bugs. And I think at some level, sometimes we do compete. However, we never find the same bugs. I have never ever been duped on a bug from Franz, and he has never been duped on a bug from me. But yeah, it's like once in Vegas, I had like a Belgian flag, and this was before I won, and I think before the picture you're about to see. But I had this Belgian flag with like even the word Belgium written on it. And and this was kind of with permission though, so I kind of checked it if it was okay, but not with friends, of course. But we kind of social engineered the receptionist over there, and I got the keys for his room, and then I just went in and I put this giant Belgian flag over there, and I left again. And I just took a picture for him, like me standing in his room with this huge Belgian flag. He was at the dinner back then, and his reaction, even though it was just on Slack, it was golden. And he even took a picture afterwards, like being devastated, like next to the Belgian flag. And as far as I know, he still has the Belgian flag. So I mean, that's his surprise from me. But yeah, it's kind of. Then I won once, and I will leave it to you, Price, to show the picture. But I won, and then so I got the belt. And at first I was thinking that Matthias from Team Sweden was going to win. So I was really surprised by my win. And they asked me to hold it up high, like to take a picture. And I was so euphoric that I was like, yeah, sure, Team Sweden, you can have a picture of me holding the belt. But then what they did, and I now you should probably show the picture. I don't know if it's in the screen.
It's up.
Yeah, it's live now.
Yeah, so then they projected, like, instead of me holding the belt, me holding like the Swedish flag or something with, if you can beat them, join them, like being projected on just on the Las Vegas Strip. So in the end, they won. But yeah, it was kind of funny. But then, it's always, when I get to win, I try to, like in the karaoke moments afterwards, I try to sing "The Winner Takes It All" from ABBA to them. So I remember seeing Franz sitting there, me with my colleague Arnie from Belgium, singing to him "The Winner Takes It All," and I basically defeated him with his own like cultural ABBA thing. So, and he was like sitting on the chair, devastated, looking at me with my belt. So it's just like mocking each other a little bit.
Very cool, very cool. These live hacking events are actually a gold mine of memes, and a lot of really hilarious stuff comes out. I think we have a few that we can bring up on screen and share with everyone. Yeah, we'll have some come up on the screen as we kind of tail off on the stream here. Cool. So, Inti, I remember from the Team Sweden, Team Belgian rivalry, I think that projection was really the peak. But some of your show and tell since then and around that time were incredible. I specifically remember the drag and drop clickjacking vulnerability. That one's stayed with me for a long time.
So whenever I stumble upon like a bug that I would not report in a normal bug bounty program, sometimes I still report it during the event, just knowing that they may just close it out and just saying, okay, this is probably not what you're looking for, but look what if I feel like it can make a great show and tell, then I would still report it. And this was, it was a valid bug, but it required so much user interaction. You had to drag and drop something from one window to the other window. And I made this game with Franz, where you had to drag like tears to his face, and for every tear you draw to his face, his face would get more like devastated, and you would see more tears appearing. But in the background, you had to do it like 3 times or something like that. And in the background, you were like executing, I think it was a course issue leaking some stuff. But yeah, that was a kind of a funny one because, you know, in the end, they closed it as NA. So, you know, I didn't get any bounty for it, but still I got like a 5K bonus for it, for being a very good report. So I think I'm one of the very few people on HackerOne with a 5K bonus on NA. So that's kind of.
You might be the only one, right? You might have that distinction.
I don't know if it's something to be proud of, but hey, it's there.
Awesome. Well, thank you all of you so much for joining me today. That was a lot of fun. I loved kind of reminiscing on some of the old events and some really, really cool memories. And thank you for sharing so much wisdom and insight. And thank you also to everyone back at home. I hope you're keeping safe and locking down with your family and loved ones. I think we can end it there. Thanks, everybody.
Cool. Thanks, man.
So you guys, look forward to seeing you in person this decade sometime.